Well, the big question, and obviously a massive spotlight on that British and Irish Lions tour. And this is what we're asking you today. Do the British and Irish Lions, given what you've seen so far in the two matches, have what it takes to beat the All Blacks in 3 test matches? Not an easy thing to do. As Victor said up front, anyone who takes on the All Blacks will be slightly worried. Well, Victor Matfield has been in the studio building up to that second British and Irish Lions match. Another man who'll be in the SuperSport studio is none other than John Smit. Barney, wonderful to have you back on SuperSport. Looking forward to seeing you in studio on Saturday morning. So far, John, your take on what we've seen on this tour? Just 2 matches in, though.
Yeah, I think it has been a pretty exciting start. We mustn't get too worked up with the results we've seen so far. I think we have to understand that it gets quite tough to come off a season, get into a country like New Zealand where the person cleaning up your room knows exactly where you made your debut, what your boot spot is. So would have been quite an uncompromising entry into New Zealand. And they haven't been together. So these first 2 games are going to be tough. I mean, the first one, they've just won. The Blues this morning, a team that's been together for 3 or 4 months. So I just wonder if Gatland hasn't selected, quite interestingly enough, not his best combinations to try and make the All Blacks a little bit more confident than they already are before the test start.
Smitty, Victor, do you think we'll see Gatland picking his strongest side somewhere before that first test, or will he hold back to almost surprise the All Blacks?
Yeah, Vic, how's it going? But
good, man.
I think this is one of the really good Lions sides that's got a really good chance. They've got good players. Their biggest disadvantage, because the longer the Lions carry on, the way the game's gone professionally, their time for preparation will be so low. So Gatland, I think, will be smart in keeping his best combinations back. I mean, it's interesting that he hasn't played Farrell at 10 yet. I guess with my gut feel, having played there quite recently and seen the progression, when we see Farrell at 10, I think that's probably the time we'll start seeing some of the first line combinations coming into play. So this will be a bit of an introductory period where they've got Crusaders this weekend, and the test match is still a long way away. So I don't think he wants to set the lights off just yet. So we're nowhere near the strongest Lions side. So I'm interested to see where this goes.
John, Owen here. We always talk about winning or losing becoming a habit. First game, just coming off the plains, squeaking home. They created plenty of chances there. Second game against the Blues, they lose. What should be, the angle from a management point of view? Because you've got 40 players looking to make into that test team. All of a sudden, we're not getting the results we thought we'd be getting. How important is it for management to make sure the goal is the same and everybody gels together? You don't start finding camps in the British and Irish Lions team.
Yeah. Owen, I think it's important to note that it's the most difficult country to go in and play because there's no quiet time. There's no gap where you can sort of find your feet. Everyone's watching your every move. They've been waiting for this for 12 years. It's literally what New Zealand's been talking about for the last 18 months. So I think as a management team, they will basically be telling their group that it's still game on, everyone's got a chance, that these games are for them to acclimatise. I mean, it is the bottom of the earth, literally, for want of Lord of the Rings analogy, but it is a long way to go for these guys after a long season. So I'm sure this is a management team who's been there for a while, will use this first 3 weeks to acclimatise, to get used to all the attention all the time, and understand that there's no downtime in a country like New Zealand if you're a rugby player.
John, just something I was wondering about. Warren Gatland referred to jet lag being an issue in that first encounter after the match. Why would they then not maybe send the guys who play in that first encounter a little earlier? Because 2 days to acclimatise to New Zealand when you're jumping so many time zones. I mean, we do it all the time in Super Rugby, but for players who are not used to this, seems like a bit of a tall order.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, I think the first fixture against the Barbarians is pretty much a dead rubber kind of sort of make up the numbers kind of fixture. The other is that some of these players were involved with playoffs for their clubs as well. And it's a long, long time to be in New Zealand, to be fair. To make it any longer for someone for no reason would be quite regarded as punishment.
It is a long time spent in Middle Earth. But Bonnie, in 2009, and Vic, you'll remember very well what happened off the field. Skalkberger comes to mind. The media that comes through from the UK tends to be looking for the dramatic. They want the stories that I suppose would steal the front pages of their respective newspapers. Was it a distraction when you guys were playing? And Vic, jump in, because they really made a big meal out of as little as possible. John, your take?
Look, it is a very different kind of series. It probably, outside of a World Cup, the biggest event you could probably be involved with as a player, whether you're a British and Irish Lion or an Australian, South African, New Zealander. So the media are massive. I don't know if it'll be as big because it's a long way to go for all that media. But they'll also be outdone by the New Zealand media, who will be in their hordes looking for stories and sound bites and stuff that's happening off the field as well. And I guess that'll be the greatest challenge, is how the Lions balance all of that attention, because these guys, as much as they're coming into rugby territory of New Zealand, they're coming out of the UK, where rugby's massive and well coached and well run, but still falls way behind football in terms of the attention that these players get. So these first 2 weeks for players who haven't been there will be like, they're not quite sure how all this attention is going to go down.
John, talking about the media, have we found a clear definition of what a Warren ball is? You heard that term?
What?
It's called the Warren ball. There's a new term that's come out in New Zealand. They're saying the game plan of the Lions, of Warren Gatland, Warren ball. And have you had a chance to find what that is?
No idea.
Yeah, they say that he's playing a very direct type of game, so it's like a power ball, just hitting it up the middle, same way around the corner. So that's how they got through the Warren ball.
Well, John, you spoke about Farrell and the fact that he hasn't really had a run just yet, and Jonathan Sexton is another one who's certainly going to be considered to start at number 10 for that first test. And you've picked these two guys for your comparison. So we're going to take a look at some of the clips, but your take, man versus man.
So probably Gatland's most difficult decision, I think, for his starting 15 in the first test, because he's got the established British and Irish line and Sexton, who in the past has been very, very good, but he's had quite an iffy club season, injuries, hasn't really been at his best. And then you've got the new kid on the block, European Player of the Year, doesn't really miss many kicks, good defender, has been very, very tidy at 10. And in my opinion, if he goes the nostalgic route and picks Sexton on what he possibly potentially can do versus what Farrell's been doing for the whole season, that might be his first blunder.
Tell us about your impressions from the Blues match and on the Kiwi side. Who are the standout performers for you there?
Well, I think it's really the advantage that lies with these first provincial teams, or shall I say franchise teams, against these Lions early up, is that they are playing against disjointed teams where you can clearly see Gatland is trying combinations and seeing what he's got, probably introducing guys from different countries to each other, creating a bit of a vibe and getting the gears going. And these franchises have been going and getting better week in and week out. And we all know, sadly, how good the Auckland, all these franchises have been. So I'm not so much sure that it's about individual standouts for the franchises so far and the games to come. But they're just cohesive units that are all high in confidence and playing good rugby.
Smitty, you talked about Farrell at 10. You don't think that might be an option at 12 to play Sexton at 10, Farrell 12? But then after this morning, where you've got Sonny Bill, that was in outstanding form this morning, do you think they'll risk playing Farrell against the big guy in the middle there?
Geez, Vic, it's a sad day when the front row and the second row are discussing fly half and side options. But I guess we can regard ourselves as.
But you've been on 10 and I'm 12.
I think that's called a painful truth, gentlemen.
We play
all the great coaches are forwards, eh? Don't get it twisted.
But you make a good point. Look, whether Farrell's at 10 or 12, I think increase the chances of the Lions. He's a good player. He doesn't make mistakes, and he's a very good defender as well. And I don't think that the Lions will make the mistake that most teams are currently making internationally by trying to play like the All Blacks. I think they're going to go there with, like you call it, the Warren ball or whatever they do, but they're going to go there with a distinct style of rugby to make the All Blacks try and adapt to the way they play. If they don't and they follow everyone else's suit currently and try and play like All Blacks, then it's probably going to be 0 from 3.
That's the one they call rugby chaos.
Well, John,
that's a new word that's come out again this week.
Yeah, John, we're looking forward to seeing you in studio come Saturday, and it's certainly going to be an interesting tussle. It's going to tell us a lot more as what we can expect to transpire over the next couple of weeks in New Zealand. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the studio.
Absolutely. We'll see you Saturday. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. So let's not get fooled by the first few weeks. And hopefully we do get an exciting test series. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cool. Thanks so much, John. And we're definitely excited to see how this unfolds. As he says, don't read just too much into these first 2 encounters. When we get back, we're going to be chatting about the Springboks in France, what to expect from France. And we're going to take a look at what these guys think the Springbok side might look like come Saturday. Don't go anywhere.